Hello and welcome to pmclounge.com. Let's talk about disaster interviews. By the way, this video comes in from our series of videos known as Lounging Around. Uh, these videos are not necessarily related to PMP certification or any other project management certification for that matter, but these videos are all about real life. These videos are all about real world project management. These videos are all about real job experiences. So there are three reasons that I have basically based on my experience and the experiences that I have heard so far in my career. I have come up with three reasons why a job interview can turn out to be a total disaster. And there are three people that are responsible for it. And those three people are basically the three reasons. So we will go over that. And if you are interested in more such lounging around videos, you can check the first link in the description out. That being clear, let's find out the first reason why your job interview or the first person because of whom your job interview can turn out to be a total disaster. The first reason is this person on your screen. The Office fans, you already know who we are talking about. Those of you who don't know, the first person responsible for your job interview turning out to be a total disaster is the HR. The HR might have matched your profile with a wrong job opening or an irrelevant job opening. So HRs, they basically have a tough job, right? Finding suitable candidates. It is possible that there's some business pressure to fill the vacant positions. So they do have this kind of job where they need to find candidates and fill up vacant positions as soon as possible. So what they basically do, and since these are not technical people, what they basically do is instead of, being able to understand the technicalities of the requirements, they will only look for keywords. And once the keywords match, they are going to call you and they are going to coordinate an interview. So let's say you are a project manager. That is your job title and there is a project management related opening in some XYZ firm. The HR is going to look at how the keywords match. There is project manager in both the job title that you have and the vacant position that they have. So the keywords match. The HR is going to call you and he or she is going to tell you, hey, I'm calling from XYZ company. We have a project management open position basically, and would you be interested? And our company is so and so, and we work in so and so industry, and for more details, should I schedule a call, an introductory call or something, uh, a first round of sorts, if you are interested? And since the HR is basically speaking in vague terms or a very generic job description of the open position that they have, you might agree for the first round. You might agree for an initial call with the employer. So that's how the HR has matched the keywords and he or she has called you and he or she has coordinated in scheduling an interview. But when you show up for the interview turns out to be a total disaster because let's say you are a project manager in software projects, but the IT company for which this job opening is for, it is basically for a hardware project management role. So that is a total mismatch of your abilities and the kind of opening that they have. So that interview is obviously going to turn out into a total disaster. You do not have any relevant experience, and the interviewer will have no idea what they should be asking you because you don't have relevant experience. So things like these, and that was a very a layman example, but it could be that you are, let's say, a technical project manager, but the technical in your job role is all about understanding the basics of the technical basics of the project that you're delivering. But the word technical, with that word technical, the HR might hook you up in a job interview which requires an architect's level of understanding and not just the basics. So that is how that interview is going to turn up into a total disaster. So this person is the first person who can actually turn your job interview into a total disaster. Reason number two, you see three people here. These are the interviewers. Are these three clear about what they are looking for in a candidate? Taking interviews, it is not an easy thing. Taking interviews also requires as much, if not more, preparation as appearing for interviews. So, how many interviewers actually take the time and prepare themselves to take that interview? Not many. So interviewers, they sometimes they don't even show up on time. Sometimes within the interview, while you are getting interviewed, they are busy on some other calls in some other meeting, and at the same time they are basically taking an interview as well, right? Taking your interview also. With in the current times that we are in, when everything's online, that is a possibility. And then sometimes interviewers, they are not even listening to your answers because everything's online. You don't sometimes, their cameras are off. You don't even know if they are listening to your answers. That is not really a conversation that's happening there, right? They might ask you very generic questions and they might not even listen to what your answers are. So even worst, let's say the interviewers, they have a list of questions that have been, let's say that list of questions has been handed over to them by someone, uh, maybe their manager or their manager's manager, and all that they are doing is reading out those questions. Okay, question number one, and they ask you a question, you give them a response. It is possible that they are typing your response while you are basically speaking to them. This is not an interview. This is not a conversation. This is an interrogation of sorts, where they are basically, just going over the list of questions that they have, not really having a conversation, and jotting down, documenting your answers so that they can review them later with their team or whoever that they have to review those answers with. So that is also a scenario where your interviewer, because of your interviewer or interviewers, the interview turns out to be a total disaster. Now, sometimes some interviewers can ask you to do some sort of homework before you show up for the interview. They might give you a case study, they might give you a presentation that you should create and then present to them in the first round or in the second round or whatever, right? So it is also possible that that case study or that requirement, right, that requirement of a presentation, they might have asked you for something. Let's say they ask you for something, they ask you for high level details, but when you show up for the interview, they are going in deep and they need more and more details, which you are not prepared for because they asked you for high level details and not the detailed structure of whatever that they are looking for, right? So that is also possible. Sometimes you can see or you can feel that the interviewer is not necessarily interested in the interview itself. The interviewer is bored. Interviewer is not taking the conversation forward. You are the host here. You are the person who is giving an interview, right? So it is as much the responsibility of the interviewer to carry the conversation as it is yours responsibility as someone who is being interviewed. So if the interviewer is bored and is not able to carry the conversation forward, that is also a recipe for a disaster interview. Reason number three, or person number three, because of whom your interview might mess up, is you don't actually have to go far. It is you yourself. And I've used the image of Mr. Robert California here. Shout out to Robert California. But his interview was actually excellent. But if you are not prepared for your interview, it is definitely going to turn out into a disaster. And there was this LinkedIn poll that I was looking at the other day. It talked about, it basically asked what was the reason of an interview rejection, and it had four options. And the vast majority of people voted that they were rejected in an interview once because they were not prepared. So you have to be prepared. The least that you can do is prepare answers for your basic questions, like introducing yourself. As a project manager, those basic questions could be around how do you manage conflicts? How do you manage cost, schedule, scope, right? Those are the basic questions. You should at least have answers to those questions. And other than that, you should also be well dressed. Just because you are taking up the interview on Zoom or some other software, right? And you are basically appearing for an interview from the comfort of your home, it does not mean that you should not dress up. You should put in an effort to dress well. The interviewer should look at you and he or she should be able to make out that you have actually put in the effort to dress up and appear for this interview. Show up on time. Make sure you don't have any hardware or software issues. Make sure your camera, audio, software, everything is working absolutely fine. These are some ways that you can avoid uh, turning your interview into a disaster because of yourself, because you are the reason, who you are the person who messed things up. Now, all those reasons aside, I would like to tell you that there are several things that need to fall in place for your interview to go well. So don't worry if the interview was a disaster. Just move on, right? Rejection is part of the game. Don't be too bothered by it. Make sure you are not the reason who is messing things up. Make sure you are not the person because of whom the interview is turning into a disaster. Prepare well, show up on time, dress well, right? There is definitely a company out there who is looking to hire someone exactly like you. So continue the journey. I hope you like the video. Like, share, subscribe. If you like our work, consider contributing at pmclounge.com/contribute. Thank you.